Welcome to the Hockey Writers Blackhawks Banter, a weekly show with our top Chicago Blackhawks writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from Chelsea Dagger to the Madhouse on Madison, our team covers everything that happens with the Hawks. So get comfortable, grab a beverage. It's time for some Blackhawks Banter. Blackhawks Banter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of Blackhawks Banter, presented by the Hockey Writers. I am your host, Greg Boyson, and we're playing a little shorthanded this week, but we have, as always, Brooke Laforno and Gail Kauchuk with us. How are we doing tonight, ladies?
Doing well.
Good. Sean is a little under the weather this week, so he didn't want to join us this evening, but we're hoping he gets a speedy recovery. He's feeling better as soon as possible. So we will have to do what most great teams have to do at some point and play a little shorthanded and pick up the slack as we venture on this week's episode. It's episode number 56 of Blackhawks Banter. And I know you guys have been waiting. I can see that look Gail's giving me. She's waiting for whose episode this is going to be, because I would not dedicate it to the most current person to wear number 56. So this is the... You know me, I'm the history guy. This is the Mike Brown episode of Blackhawks Banter.
That's just no.
Because I don't want this episode to be a minus. If we name it after him, this episode is going to be a minus. We got to stay in the plus.
He's playing better, darn it.
I don't care. I get to pick who it's named after. Everybody. So Mike Brown. He is 1 assist in his 2 career games with the Blackhawks. That's pretty darn good.
Yes.
He's most famous actually for being part of the trade that got Pavel Bure from the Canucks to the Panthers. So that's his claim to fame, because he didn't do a whole lot else. Anyway, on to why we're here. Not to argue about who wore 56 best, but where our beloved Blackhawks are and how they're doing. They had a busy week. 3 games last week, just the 1 win, heartbreaking loss on Saturday night to the Maple Leafs, where they erased a 4-1 deficit, tied it up, and only to have Gail's former client, David Camp, score off of a just bad luck bounce off the end boards. But this week in our preview post, Sean wanted to talk about the Blackhawks and whether or not we can start thinking this is a playoff team. They have been playing better, but still probably not quite good enough to really contend for a playoff spot. Sean mentioned that, they have dug themselves into quite the hole, losing their first 9 games or whatever it was. Just a horrible month of October. And while they have elevated their play, they still need to take it up a notch to try and jump over a bunch of those teams that are now ahead of them in the standings. So we'll talk about this a little bit. Gail, what do you think are the keys to the Blackhawks getting back to the playoffs? Is it even possible?
Well, yeah, I do think that it is a bit of a long shot for this team, but as the ultimate optimist, I am not going to count them out just 1/3 of the way through the season. So I think I just have a couple keys here. Most importantly, they must continue to play consistent defensively. They've really, made huge strides under Derek King in that respect, and they can't afford to let their foot off the gas. They definitely have to keep that up. But in tandem with them, they just have to pick up their offensive play. Now that that's been sacrificed a little bit, but now it's time to combine the defense with the offense. It's no secret, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Kirby Dach, Dominic Kubalik all should be scoring more, and we thought that they would be scoring more. So they need to start scoring some more goals, obviously continue with depth goals, just, more scoring and try to have that balance with keeping the defensive play up as well. Also consistency every single game. Like you mentioned, they got themselves into this hole, but now every game counts, and they can't afford to take a single shift off. And so they really have to figure out a way to bring it every night and to have that energy and to have that drive to win and not taking any games off. And then finally, they've actually only faced fellow division opponents 6 times in these first 27 games. So there's 20 more games against division foes, 18 more constant games against Western Conference opponents. And so as we know that those all are basically a 4-point swing in the standing. So focusing on beating those divisional and conference opponents, I think would also be key if they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, there has been a lot of games, against Eastern Conference teams. We've already seen the Rangers twice, the Islanders twice, Penguins twice. So they're getting those games out of the way early. So, those division games are going to be huge. And it is kind of, someone posted the stats online yesterday, I think it was, but it's kind of strange, and it's a welcome sight. That since Derek King took over, when he took over, the Blackhawks were the worst 5-on-5 defensive team in the league. And since he's been here, they're the best 5-on-5 defensive team as far as, shots against and just overall performance. So, I mean, it's crazy, and he's not doing anything special. He's doing exactly what we were screaming about for years, it seemed, the just simplify it and put guys in positions to succeed. And that seems to be exactly what's working. Brooke, we're talking about trying to get this team into the playoffs. Are there any type of trade scenarios that you see that might help and give them an immediate bump?
Yes, trading for scoring, I think, which is a nice welcome kind of thing, because I feel like the past year we've been talking about they need to trade for defense. Okay, well, they already did. So now we can focus on offense. And to be honest, they don't have much to offer any team at the moment. They don't really have any draft capital. Their prospects are kind of and the players right now just aren't getting it done. So they really don't have much to offer. But Jake DeBrusk on the Boston Bruins is on the market. I think that would immediately bump some offense. I mean, I understand that he's been struggling and stuff, and it might not be a popular kind of thing, but who knows? Maybe if he gets a change of scenery, it might help. I think, Greg, you even tweeted about this. Him for Dylan Strome just makes way too much sense. I mean, the Bruins need a center and offense too, and maybe Strome needs a fresh start. And honestly, DeBrusk can go in on the top 6 and just a new face, to be honest with you, because I think we talk about a lot, again, how the top 6 isn't really a top 6. Hagel's not really a top 6 player, that kind of thing. I think it would just add more depth maybe, and then we don't need to stop screaming, or we can stop screaming about how they can't score goals. So I think he's the easiest option because he's on the market, he's available. Who knows? Maybe if he forces their hand, Boston may be more willing to deal with the Blackhawks, but that's where I'm at right now. Get Jake DeBrusk. He can score power play goals and goals in general.
Yeah, that's Dylan Strome for Jake DeBrusk. It just makes too much sense. It's probably why it's not going to happen. One team I would keep my eye open on as far as where DeBrusk may go could be the Edmonton Oilers. They just Zach Hyman got injured. I'm not sure how serious it was, but he left the other day with an injury. And his dad, former NHL Louis DeBrusk, is the color commentator with Edmonton. So there's a connection there. So maybe that's a place he can wind up. That'll be interesting to see. It's kind of one of those low risk, high reward type of change of scenery trades that our former GM loved to make. So we'll see if that happens now. And that's kind of lead into, what I have to say about this topic and our next topic. And that's, is it time to kind of maybe not expect a playoff push here? And I kind of think it is. I mean, we're kind of seeing what this team is. They had that push, that new coach push. Derek King took over. They won 4 games in a row, but they have literally swapped wins and losses in each one of their 11 games. So that's kind of what they are. They're a 500 team. They beat the teams they're supposed to, and they can't beat the teams ahead of them in the standings. Eventually you're going to have to beat these teams ahead of you in the standings if you want any kind of chance. I think they just dug themselves into too big of a hole. They've got new regime coming in. I think it's time for them to finally just embrace that rebuild that they talked about last year and scrapped. We kind of know why. They just need to embrace that and recognize that this team, they're going to have to scratch and claw to even get an 8 seed. And even if they do, what's going to happen then? Is it really worth it? I know that the players in the locker room, it is. You can't tell them, hey, we're going to throw in the towel this season. But, management, whoever is making these decisions for the future right now, needs to keep their eye towards the future. That's kind of where we're going to go into with our next topic.
Can I add something to that really quick?
I suppose. Yeah. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
really quick. When you kind of talk about that, it actually kind of brought a thought to my mind about how they're playing better. But here's the issue. When you watch other teams that are playoff seeking teams right now, which is Colorado, Minnesota, the Panthers, even Calgary, it seems like it's very night and day. So you do see the differences there, especially kind of like what we've seen. It's just they're not there. They're not on that page yet, but they are doing better, just not like you said, just not there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Minnesota, they had an 8-game winning streak. Dallas, who's all of a sudden right back in the thick of things, they went a stretch where they won 9 out of 10. This Blackhawks team doesn't have a team that can do either of that, and they need one of those to get back in it. There's no way this team's going to win 8 games in a row. I just don't see that happen. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. And even if they win, even if they won on a 9-game winning streak, then they would be 500.
Right there.
It cancels out that 9-game losing streak that they started the year with. So I think it's just too big of a hill to climb over, too big of a hole to dig out. And that's kind of how we want to focus on our next topic about, trade deadline's a couple months away still, but we got to start talking about it. And I think the sooner this franchise hires a president and GM and commit to the future, the better off they're going to be. I think that's the direction they need to go. They need to realize, hey, it's been 7 years since this team won a playoff series. The last playoff series they won was a 2015 Stanley Cup final. It's going on, it'll be 7 years this spring. We got to close the door on that era. I know it's tough and we loved it. And it was the best era of Blackhawks hockey. It's over. We need to bury it. We need to just move on and try and get back there with a new group. And we're going to talk about what moves could potentially be made if this team isn't in a playoff spot by the trade deadline. And one of those guys that I think is the top of the list of guys they should consider trading, and it might be unpopular, but that's Marc-Andre Fleury. We love him. He's a fan favorite. He's a great guy, great goalie when he's on his game. He's the best trade chip they have. So, you would think a guy at his spot in his career, I know he wasn't thrilled about being traded here in the first place and probably doesn't want to get traded again, moving his young family. But he's at the end of his career, or towards the end of his career. Maybe he wants one last shot to win another cup, or at least play in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's a guy that can get a good return for the Hawks, especially if they just say, hey, we'll retain the rest of his salary for the rest of this year. Why not? That's why you got him in the first place, for nothing. Retain that entire salary, get a higher draft pick or a better prospect, and move on from there. I think it's a win-win. It puts Fleury in a position to possibly win another Stanley Cup, and it gives the Hawks some real assets. They don't have a lot of assets towards the future right now. And with that in mind, speaking of guys who would be good trade chips, at least one for sure, we got to talk to, about this comes up a lot about trading a Jonathan Toews or a Patrick Kane. Is it the right move to do? Well, I'm going to give you a hypothetical here, Gail. I know you said you weren't thrilled with being asked this, so I kind of like putting you on the spot. But say Toews and or Kane request a trade and say, we're gonna waive our no movement clauses, just get us to a contender. We want another shot at a cup. What kind of realistic return would you expect to get back for either one or both of those guys?
Well, I guess I just should say that the reason I don't like this question is because it's obviously something that nobody really wants to think about. A lot of times, these guys the superstars like that aren't going to get traded in the middle of the season. It usually happens in the off season. But like you said, we're talking about hypotheticals here. So again, I don't think either one of them is just going to waive their no movement clause to go anywhere. They're going to have a say in where they go. And I don't think they're going to they're obviously interested in a contender. Rumor has it that, maybe Toews would be interested in his native Winnipeg, and perhaps Kane would, perhaps go to the Rangers. He's from New York, and he could perhaps be lured into playing again with his friend Artemi Panarin. So I guess that's kind of, my thought process there. As far as a return, you're right. They really could. The management, whoever the heck it is, it's going to be making these deals, could really get a great return if they play their cards right. Obviously, some kind of first round pick should be part of the package, and young prospects. You're obviously going to be looking towards the future here. I know that like the Rangers have some young defensive prospects that, perhaps the Blackhawks would be interested in. And then with the Rangers, I've heard names like Capo Kaiko and Neil Lundqvist, and perhaps even I don't know how to say his name, Vital Krasov, have been people that have been brought up that could be some kind of a swap for them. So I don't see it happening, but maybe, the stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I think the higher return right now obviously would be for Kane than Toews, but maybe Toews is on the just starting a gigantic long goal streak, and we'll get that going. But we'll see what happens. I think if any kind of trade happens with either of those guys, the Hawks are going to have to take back some sort of NHL contract or retain salary. But they're in a position where they can retain salary even into next year if they're going to go full rebuild. And you can get more by, say, keeping half of their salary and paying it, then that's something they're in a position where they could do that if they embrace the rebuild. Brooke, I'll throw this last question on this topic to you. Outside of the three players we mentioned, Fleury, Kane, and Toews, what player do you think could be the most valuable trade chip before the deadline?
I love talking about trades, to be honest. It just makes me want to be a GM so bad. I know I kind of already said this. They don't really have much to offer. The players that you would expect to be trade chips like Kubalik and Strome and stuff just aren't producing. And they're just not going to garner really much probably of a return right now. So my thought maybe is DeHaan was the second player or the third player that came to my mind. And I don't like saying that though, because I actually really like DeHaan and I think he's done really well for the Blackhawks, but realistically, he's probably someone that teams would want, especially if they're a playoff seeking team. He's a reliable, steady defenseman. He's proven enough that he's a good defenseman. So I do think if they really can't move anyone else, teams are for sure going to have interest in him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was kind of mentioned at the trade deadline. I think we thought maybe he would be moved over the off season, but he wasn't. So who knows, maybe he'll be moved at the deadline.
Yeah, I think he's definitely trade candidate number one. He's a veteran defender. And GMs love to get those guys, those teams looking to make that deep run. He'd be a perfect third pairing defenseman on a Stanley Cup contender, penalty killer. I think you can get a decent return for him. Another guy that I think could fetch you, something nice, a mid-round pick come trade deadline is a Ryan Carpenter. He's another one of these veteran guys that plays a lot of different roles. You think of those Hawks teams that won Stanley Cups, you always had that guy like that on the fourth line, be it, your Adam Bursch or your Jamal Mayers, or that veteran guy that's not necessarily going to do a lot of flashy stuff, but will kill penalties, will take those tough defensive zone shifts, play physical, play playoff style hockey. Carpenter is that guy. So he's a guy teams could be looking for at the trade deadline too. So definitely something we'll keep up with. As you said, Brooke, you love talking trades. Everybody loves talking trades. So you can bet as we get closer and closer to that deadline, which I believe is early March, first week of March, last week of February, somewhere around there. I had
March
it written down somewhere.
I think it is March 21st.
Is it that? Oh, that's right. It's later. We started later on. And well, maybe they bumped that up if there's no Olympic break. So we'll see. Yeah, but we will definitely keep you informed on all those trade rumors, not only here on future episodes of Blackhawks Banter, but over at the hockeywriters.com, where you can read all of our work over there. We had a busy week, a lot of stuff going up in the last few days. So we're catching up on all of our Blackhawks content. So please make sure you're checking out the website, hockeywriters.com, following all of us individually on Twitter, as well as the Blackhawks Banter account, THW Blackhawks. That will keep you well informed. Also, if you're watching along on our YouTube channel, the Hockey Writers YouTube channel, please subscribe if you haven't done that already. Leave some likes and comments as well. We love hearing from you guys. We love getting feedback. We love suggestions for future topics. So definitely reach out over there on the YouTube channel, or if you're listening wherever you get your favorite podcasts, we're available on all audio only formats. Like or subscribe there as well. Leave some comments. We're over on Discord as well. If for those of you who are big into the Discord, we have the Hockey Lounge server that you could check out over there and join the discussion, not only about Blackhawks, but every team has their own channel there. So join in and discuss hockey with us there as well. And lastly, make sure you sign up for the Morning Skate newsletter. Great job done by our staff at the Hockey Writers. You get all the latest news and updates sent directly to your inbox, as well as some exclusive features from our writers that you can only find at the Morning Skate. So head over to morningskate.io and add your email address if you haven't done that already, and you'll get that sent to your inbox every day. So we're going to go move along, breeze through our next couple of topics here. And Brooke, you want to talk about getting some offense from the defense recently. Jake McCabe was one of those big off-season defensive acquisitions you mentioned earlier. But he had a rough start, as everybody did in October, but he's definitely played much better of late. And he actually has 3 points in his last 3 games, which is not something he's known for. But what has impressed you of Jake McCabe's game of late? Is it that new baby glow that's helping him produce?
Yeah, I do think there's something there actually with that. But I actually have 2 comparisons. So kind of just bear with me while I kind of talk and ramble about this. So McCabe, in my brain, he kind of resembles to me. I always think he's like a Patrick Maroon of a defenseman. He's a big body that just takes up space. You know, he's hard to get around. He's very strong with the puck. He's hard to take down. It's what you need, honestly, on defense. Especially because the Blackhawks have been so inexperienced the past few years, and there's just not a lot of reliability. But I kind of love the physicality he brings, because also he reminds me of Murphy, but a little bit more physical than Murphy. Just someone that's not flashy, but can just do his job. And I love the physicality there. We need someone that can kind of clear the net. I noticed even a lot this year, even the beginning, if opponents were trying to screen the goalies, no one had like the whatever to push them out of the way. And McCabe is someone that will do that. So I just kind of like a lot of what he brings. That's what you want on defense, a big body that takes up space, and, you know, is good with the puck, can clear the zone. I like it.
Yeah, that's exactly the player that he was signed to be when he got here. So anytime he adds offense, it's just gravy. It's extra bonus.
Yeah.
So good for Jake. And speaking of the defenseman adding some offense, Connor Murphy was back in the lineup after missing a couple games. Nothing new there. His style of game, he always gets bumps and bruises throughout the course of the year. But he had a 2-point game. McCabe and Murphy both had 2 points the other night. Gail, were you surprised to see him have that 2-point game? And is this a renaissance of sorts, or you just have him keep doing what he's been doing?
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised that he had a 2-point game at all. You know, he might not be a top defenseman caliber like Seth Jones, and the offense is like, you know, kind of a bonus, but he has developed into, like, you know, obviously one of the top shutdown players that can be counted on, a smart player. And so he knows when to step into the play and when to take advantage of his opportunities. And he's done just that. I think I mentioned at the beginning of the season that I felt that he had that confidence at the end of last season as well, to kind of have that bit of an offensive flair. So yeah, he missed 3 games. Concussion symptoms, fortunately, they were not serious, but if I could just say real quick here, 3 block shots and 1 hit against the Canadians, 24 minutes of ice time, and then 1 goal, 1 assist, like you just talked about in the last game, 3 shots on goal, 6 hits, and 4 block shots against the Maple Leafs. I mean, that giddy up. He's just a warrior, and you know, it's kind of what we come to expect out of Murphy. We almost take it for granted.
When Gail says giddy up, guys, it's real good. It's a real good thing.
Yeah, Murphy was it took him a while for fans to warm. I mean, he's kind of cut out of the same cloth of the guy that we traded to get him. It took a while for fans to warm up to Connor Murphy, as you know, he was traded for, you know, Nicholas Jarmelson, a beloved player, Gail's favorite Blackhawk. And anytime that happens, you know, unfairly, it takes a little while but he's been their best defenseman over the past 3 seasons. It's not even close. And McCabe and Murphy kind of hold down that role that we were used to seeing out of a Jarmelson and like a Seabrook back in the glory days. They play the stay at home, you know, tough defensive assignments. And with that, that should allow some of the other guys to chip in offensively. You know, we see Seth Jones, he's up there leading the team in points. Seems like anytime there's a goal scored, he's factoring in it some way or another. And that's what you expect out of him. But getting offense from the defense is huge in this day's game. I mean, just look around the league. You look at players like Adam Fox on the Rangers, or Colorado has a bunch of guys on their back end that can score. Carolina, they get offense from the defense. The game is kind of changed where you're now looking at your defensemen to kind of lead the zone rush and jump into the play and provide some offense. And as we've discussed over and over and over again, this Blackhawks team really struggles at 5-on-5 to put consistent offense. So anything they get from their blue liners is huge. And Seth Jones is leading that charge. And so hopefully we can get some guys to join in. I think guys like Wyatt Kalynuk and Ian Mitchell, they've been up and down, but those are guys that are going to be that type of player. If they pan out, they'll be that offensive defenseman. We'll see how that turns out, but the more offense you get from your blue line, the better chances you have to win. Just look at the top teams across the league. A lot of them have offensive defensemen. So let's move on to our fourth topic here. We're just going to quickly go through and give some recognition. The Blackhawks won just one of their 3 games, but as we mentioned, that Toronto game, they made game out of it for sure. We're going to give out our standout players of the week. Gail, you just wanted to recognize, somebody who stood out for you. Maybe it's not for good reasons. Maybe it is, but who is your standout Blackhawk of the week this week, Gail?
All right. I chose to highlight one of the ultimate underdogs that doesn't get a whole lot of credit and rarely even gets mentioned. It takes an entire team to win, entire team effort. But every player's contributions are valuable. And I think that without this player's contribution, the Blackhawks just wouldn't be where they are right now. And he had a great 3 games. I want to give kudos to 30-year-old fourth liner, Ryan Carpenter. Again, like I said, 3 great games. So I'm not going to get into like the stats of each one, but just overall in these last 3 games, he's averaging 14 minutes of play. And that's like pretty respectable for a fourth liner, but that means that the coach trusts you with the ice time. 6 shots on goal, 5 hits, 6 of 11 faceoffs, which is actually 55%. And this guy isn't even counted on to be a center. He's not even a regular center, but when they need him to, he can win the faceoffs. And even in the last 2 games, he's actually been tasked with playing on the top power play unit in the bumper role. They're having some trouble, obviously, as we know, with the power play. So they're experimenting a little bit. This isn't his usual spot, but if they need him, he's game. So, you can Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane me all day long. And, obviously I love them and I appreciate them. Don't get me wrong, but they're nothing without the depth players, and Carpy's one of those guys. And I just wanted to say kudos for his contributions this week.
I love that trade value. Nicely done, Gail. He's invaluable. Give us your best prospect for him.
Yes, exactly.
Quickly mentioned before we put together our notes for the show before he had to bow out, Sean was going to mention Jonathan Toews being his standout player of the week. And of course, he finally got off the proverbial schneid and scored his first goal in that Montreal game, and then followed up with another goal in that Toronto game. So 2 goals in 2 days for the captain. That first one had to feel really good. And I know we enjoyed seeing it. So good for the captain. Hopefully that's turning things around for good old number 19. Brooke, who stood out for you the most this week?
The first thought that came to my mind was Fleury. And I feel bad Sean's not here to talk about this because we all know he's good at the goaltender stuff. But Fleury, can't say enough about the guy. Like Greg said, we love him. It feels like even though they've been winning, it seems like a lot of the games they won, they kind of had no business winning. And it was because of Fleury. Like they said, where he goes, the team goes. If he struggles, the team struggles. I think we talked about that before. But like against Vancouver, Washington, the Islanders, and even Montreal, they all could have lost that game easily. But he comes up big on the penalty kill, especially, and he just makes the saves that you need to win those games. And do they overly rely on him a lot? They do, but that's what he's paid for, I guess. You don't get a lot of goalies like that can be that heavily relied on. So you know what? He's my star in my book. Like like Gail said, number 500. Woo! Congrats to him. But yeah, he's the standout player for me.
Definitely. It was really cool to see him get that 500 shutout in his hometown. Fans in Montreal chanting his name. That's pretty cool. For the record, I like to say that I did predict that his 500th win would be a shutout. I was just wrong about which game it was going to happen in. So
That's right.
I said it was going to happen against the Rangers. You waited to the next game, but technically that was a correct prediction from yours truly. Don't get many of those, so I need to gloat about it when I can. My standout of the week, I'm going to go with Dylan Strome. I mean, he had a nice week. He got in against the Rangers. It was an ugly game, but he had an assist. And then healthy scratch against Montreal. Again, with the, he's not doing what we want out of him, but what exactly do you want out of him? I mean, it's getting ridiculous. And I don't think players are being held to the same standards. That I complained a lot about this under Colleton, and I'm going to call Derek King out on this. Like, how can you keep scratching Strome saying he's not giving you what you want, and when you play him on the fourth line, and that you allow Kirby Dach to play every game and play in the top six, and he can't be giving you anything close to what you want out of him. So if you're going to hold Dylan Strome to that standard, how about we hold number 77 to that standard too? Now, there was a tweet sent out that King had a long conversation off to the side with Dach after practice, and that usually means somebody's coming out of the lineup. So we'll see what happens Wednesday.
Was that today? I'm sorry.
That
I know
was today.
I know it's Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, it was today. Yeah.
That was Monday's practice. They had a longer practice after they learned that they won't be playing Monday as originally scheduled. So we'll see if he comes out of the lineup. But Strome got back in the lineup against Toronto only because Henrik Borgstrom was sick. And then I think he had his best game of the year in Toronto. He didn't get a point, but he had a season high 4 shots on goal and played a season high over 19 minutes, just over 19 minutes of ice time. So he was getting playing time. He won 10 out of 16 faceoffs. That was the most wins he's had this season. And it was the most draws he had this season. He took 16 faceoffs. So that's showing that King is getting some confidence in him. And then Monday at practice, where is he? He's centering Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. So in one game, he goes from being a healthy scratch to now centering Kane and DeBrincat, which I said he should be doing for a long time. So maybe he's getting that confidence at the dot. He's playing with 2 guys that he's produced with in the past.
Well,
I'm all for it.
I think at the I didn't watch the game like I was at a Christmas party, but from afar, and I did notice on Twitter too. I think they mentioned that he got promoted at the end of the game to that top line. And if you recall, he's like, "Oh, who do I trust?" Derek King said this. Who do I trust to be those top 3 lines at the end of a tough game when they're trying to win? Well, he did that for Strome this past game. So
maybe he finally showed him the magical what I want to see out of him in Toronto. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But good for him. I'm rooting for Strome. He's never been like a favorite of mine, but just everything he's been through last year and this year, I'm rooting for him to start producing, whether it's here in Chicago or anywhere else, Boston, wherever. I want him to succeed because he's gone through a lot, and he's a good kid, and good things should happen to good people. All right, those are our standouts. We're going to move on to our final segment. It's the shootout round. This is where we do some quick fire questions to wrap up our show with some predictions, a little bit of fun. So let's see how we handle it this week. The Blackhawks were supposed to have 4 games before we got back together. We're recording on Monday, but Monday night's game against the Flames was postponed as they have 6 players and 1 coach in COVID protocol. So probably the right call there. So they will have 3 games before our next recording session: home against Washington and those stinking Nashville Predators, and then a road game at the Dallas Stars, who we mentioned earlier, playing a lot better. So how many of these 6 possible points do you see the Blackhawks getting this week? Brooke, we'll start with you on the predictions.
I actually say 3. I do see Washington loss, Nashville maybe overtime, just because we struggle against them so much. And a loss to Dallas probably.
Okay, Gail, what do you think?
I'm going to go with 4 points. They're going to win 2 of these games. Not sure which ones, but 4.
Okay. I'm going to go with 2 just because I'm following the trend. They lost the last game, so they're going to, or actually, if they follow the trend, it's 4 points. So I'm going with 4 points because they should win against Washington, lose against Nashville, win against Dallas. It's been the trend for 11 games. And I've always been told if you're a betting person, you follow those trends. So I'm going to go 4 points. They'll beat Washington, lose to Nashville, beat Dallas, which means it'll probably be the exact opposite. Sticking with these 3 games, who do you think is going to lead the scoring this week, and with how many points? Gail, we'll give you this one first.
He's been in a little bit of a slump lately, so he's bound to snap out of it. I'm going to go with DeBrincat. Couple goals, couple assists, 4 points.
All right, Brooke, who's your leading scorer these next 3 games?
I'm gonna have to go with Kubalik. He scored the last game. He might be onto something. I don't know, but I don't see many points out of it though. Maybe like 2.
All right, I am gonna go with we just talked about him, Dylan Strome. He's back between DeBrincat and Kane. I think he's gonna get like 2 goals and 3 assists and have 5 points this week. I think he's ready to break out.
He's gonna get scratched.
Shush. No.
Yeah, watch, because we said that he will.
They don't have anybody left. They got to play him now. All right. So sticking on, you mentioned Dominic Kubalik, so we know what your answer is going to be, Brooke. But who gets more goals this week, Kubalik or Toews? They both seem to be turning the corner. Gail, who do you think, Toews or Kubalik?
Yeah, I'm going to go with my boy Kubi. I think Kubalik.
Brooke, you already said he's going to lead the team in goals, so there's your answer for that one. 2 birds, 1 stone with that last answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Kubalik too, just because he's been such a streaky scorer. He kind of scores in bunches. So I think he'll get another couple goals this week as well, hopefully. And that first game back Wednesday nights, the Washington Capitals are in town. The Blackhawks beat the Capitals in Washington just a couple of weeks ago, so they'll be definitely out for revenge. And of course, when you talk Capitals, it all starts and ends with Alex Ovechkin, who's been on fire this year. He's got 20 goals in 28 games already. Do we think the Blackhawks are going to keep him off the score sheet? Brooke, what do you think?
Yes, because of Fleury. Fleury has a long history with Ovechkin and knows how to stop him well. So yes, I think they'll stop him.
Gail, what do you think?
I think the last time they played, he had an assist, but he did not score a goal. So I think he will probably score a goal. They can't hold him back this time.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Thank you.
She's allergic to Alex Ovechkin, apparently.
I am.
Yeah, I don't think they can hold him off the goal sheet 2 games in a row. If they stay out of the penalty box and don't allow him to shoot that one-timer on the power play, then they'll have a chance, but we'll see how that goes. I'll predict at least 1 goal for Ovechkin. And our final question, it's not Blackhawks related, but we'll stick with Alex Ovechkin because this has been kind of a fun topic over the last few months. He's going to come into Wednesday's game with 750 career goals, which is the 4th most all time. Only 3 guys have more goals than him. Jaromir Jagr, which he'll probably pass this season. And then you have Gordie Howe at 801 and Wayne Gretzky at 894. So he's 144 goals behind Wayne Gretzky. He's 36, but he's showing no sign of slowing down. I mean, as I mentioned, he's got 20 goals in 28 games this season. He's in great physical shape. He easily could play another 3 or 4 seasons. Do you think Ovechkin eventually catches and passes Wayne Gretzky's 894 goals? Brooke, what do you think?
Yes, I do.
Gail, do you think the great one slips to number 2?
Yeah, I agree. I think Ovechkin will surpass him.
Yeah, I think so too. As long as he keeps playing, he's like Jagr. He just doesn't see. He's like Jagr, but better. Like Jagr was fantastic, but he slowed down as he got older. Was still a very good player, but slowed down. Ovechkin's like playing his best hockey of his career at 36. It's insane. Yeah. With that shot, anything's possible. It'll be fun to watch for sure. It would definitely be history to watch and something we'll all remember. So we'll keep track of that over the next year or 2 as he gets closer. But that's going to wrap up this episode of Blackhawks Banter. Thank you everybody for tuning in, whether you're watching on the YouTube channel or checking us out on your favorite podcast provider. listening in your car or on the way to work. We thank you, because if nobody listened, they wouldn't let us do this. So we can't do this without you guys tuning in every week. We appreciate it. We love to hear from you guys. So let us know what you think about our comments, or if you have any things you'd like us to discuss in future episodes. If you've got a shootout question, you're dying to know what we would answer, send it our way. We'll get it in there for sure.
Don't
So
send
that'll
us
wrap
any
up.
Eric Gustafson stuff, though. Obviously, bad juju.
True. I'll back that up. So yeah, we love to hear from you. Send us your comments. We'll do our best to get you a shout out on the show or answer your questions, and we'll wrap this episode up. 3 games this week. We'll be back next week to discuss how they did. And thank you, Brooke and Gail, for chatting with me this week. Can't wait to do it again. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.